Chapter 12. Crashing Down. Asami. Asami rolled over in the guest bed, tossing and turning, just as she had been for the past hour or so. She didn't know what time it was, but it hardly mattered. There was no way she could fall asleep when she was this ecstatic. It happened. It finally happened. She finally got to say it, and even better, she got to hear Korra say it too. Only a month ago, Asami could barely even acknowledge to herself that she had feelings for her best friend, let alone say so out loud. Let alone say so out loud to Korra. But now? Everything was going to be different now. After so many months of distant longing, so many months of burying feelings she felt selfish just for having, it was finally all out in the open. Korra loves me, she thought with glee. Korra told her she loved her, and Asami had said it back, and the kiss that had followed was the best moment of Asami's life. She couldn't wait to see what joys tomorrow would bring. Apparently, Naga shared her enthusiasm. The polar bear dog paced restlessly, occasionally whining and pawing at the door. Asami waved an arm. "Naga, come on. Go lay down, okay?" Naga responded with another whine. "It's bedtime, dummy." Asami sighed. "I'm serious. You can go out in the morning, okay? I'm not about to let you sneak into Korra's room again." At that, Naga barked, loudly. Asami sat up in bed and shushed her sharply. "Quit it! You'll wake up the whole house!" When Naga barked again, Asami groaned. Knowing that the polar bear dog couldn't understand her didn't make this one-sided conversation any less frustrating. She was about to continue her fruitless efforts when Naga turned back to the door and pawed at it again, this time raking her claws down the wood. "Hey, stop that!" Asami raised her voice as much as she dared. "What, do you need a pee or something?" Naga whined and scratched at the door again, so Asami jumped out of bed, shaking her head, and donned the fur-lined blue bedrobe Senna had given her. "All right, fine. Not like I was going to sleep much anyway." Naga stepped aside to let Asami open the door. The instant she did, the polar bear dog pushed past her, her massive frame shoving Asami to the floor. "Get back here!" Asami called after her, scrambling to her feet and stumbling out into the hall. Immediately, she spotted Naga in front of Korra's room, standing so tall on her hind legs that her head touched the ceiling with height to spare. Giant paws scratched angrily at the top of the bedroom door. Asami nearly fell over again as she shot down the hall to stop her. "Naga! Naga, down!" she said in a low hiss. She shoved Naga's shoulder, trying and failing to get her off the door. "She is sleeping, Naga. Korra already had one nightmare tonight. She doesn't need you slamming on her door and scaring the hell out of her." Naga barked again and again, scratching at the door all the while. The hinges rattled. Asami thought she heard one of them about to break. If I can't calm her down soon, then... What's all this? Everyone else will wake up. Great. Asami turned to see Senna coming down the stairs with Tonrock close behind. "I don't know," she said nervously. "She was pacing for like an hour and then just went crazy. Oh, and she scratched up the guest room door. I'm sorry." "It's not your fault, Asami." Senna shook her head. "This is exactly why Korra won't let her stay in her bedroom anymore." Tonrock got his arms around one of Naga's massive front legs, managing to pull her away from the door. "Enough with the scratching, girl. I'm sure you got her attention." He's definitely right about that, thought Asami. With how jumpy Korra is now, there's no way she slept through so much noise. She frowned. This was not how she'd wanted her next interaction with Korra to go. But there was nothing to do about it now. "I'll go check on her," she said, squeezing past Naga. The polar bear dog was sitting beside Tonrock, whining and stamping her feet. "Korra?" By habit, Asami entered the darkened bedroom as quietly as she could, even though her best friend had to be awake by now. "I'm so sorry about Naga. She really wanted to see you, I guess." She waited for a moment, expecting to hear a reply, but Korra remained silent. Asami took another step into the room. Behind her, Senna poked her head through the open door. "Honey, you okay in there?" "I think she's still asleep, actually," Asami said. "Really?" said Tonrock from the hall outside. "That's a relief, if not a surprise." "Naga, no! Get back here!" Asami barely had time to get out of the way as Naga came barreling into the room, skidding to a stop beside Korra's bed. The whole time she kept barking and whining. "So much for that," said Senna dryly. "It's just us, Korra. Looks like Naga really missed you." Again, Korra did not respond. Slowly, Asami approached Korra's bed, her eyes somewhat adjusting to the dark. Sure enough, Korra was there, still sound asleep. Her beautiful face was tranquil, her eyes were lightly closed, her lips barely parted. The rest of her body was hidden beneath the many layers of furs and blankets she had asked for earlier in the night. Asami's heart swelled at the sight, awash with the same joy she'd felt when kissing Korra for the first time. But something isn't right. Asami moved to wake Korra up, gently shaking her by the shoulders. "Hey, Korra, you awake?" "Sorry about Naga. She got away from me," Tonraq said from behind her. "Korra? Sweetheart?" Asami shook her harder, only for Korra's head to loll to the side like a broken toy. Fear dug its claws in deeper. She gripped the stack of furs and blankets, intending to pull them away, only to find that they were nearly soaked through with something wet and warm. She let go and looked at her hand. A dark stain coated her fingers. Korra? When she was again met with silence, Asami's stomach dropped. "Someone get the light." "Sweetie?" Senna's voice wavered. "Can you hear us?" Korra didn't answer. She didn't even move. Dread blazed white-hot in Asami's veins. She returned her hands to the wet covers as Senna approached the bed. Together they pulled off the blankets and furs, and something clattered loudly to the ground just as Tonraq flipped the light switch by the door. Red was Asami's only thought. There's so much red. The rest of the world fell out of focus. A river of blood was streaming from an ugly gash that ran the length of Korra's left forearm, plainly visible beneath the pushed-up sleeve of her robe. Asami could only stare at it, frozen. Is she dead? The question seemed an absent one, out of sync with the rest of her mind. She raised her hands into view. The scarlet stains from where she'd touched the blankets burned angrily on her fingers. Beyond them, the beautiful face she'd kissed earlier that night was pale, expressionless, like the surface of a lake made still by so many layers of ice. "Korra!" Senna's scream brought Asami back to reality. A second later, she was screaming too. The next minute was a desperate blur. Somehow, Asami got a cloth tied tightly around Korra's arm, just above the joint, even though she couldn't stop her hands from shaking. Her hands that were now covered in Korra's blood, hands that made her want to scream all over again when she looked at them. At the same time, Tonraq was applying pressure to the wound, and Senna kept pleading with her unconscious daughter to wake up, to hold on, to stay with them. All the while, Naga kept barking and whining. The makeshift tourniquet seemed to slow the bleeding a small amount, but Asami couldn't really tell because she couldn't look at Korra's arm without panicking, and she couldn't panic. Keep it together, she told herself as she felt her composure begin to crumble. Don't cry. I can't cry. I'm not supposed to cry. I'm not allowed to cry. The first terrified sob struck her like a hand across her face. As Tonraq lifted Korra from the bed, shouting that they needed to get her to Katara, Asami watched on uselessly. Korra wasn't moving, and she's so pale, and her whole body was limp because she's dying, and all Asami could do was stand there weeping like a stupid little girl. "Asami!" She nearly fell over when Senna called her name. "What?" she stammered. "We need to go." Senna's face was streaked with tears, but she sounded no less determined for it. She took Asami by her blood-stained hand, dragging her out of the bedroom to follow after Tonraq and Naga, who were already long gone. Just as they passed through the door, Asami glanced back into the room and saw something metal glinting on the floor. A knife, she realized. It was a knife from dinner the night before. It must have fallen from the blankets they'd pulled off the bed when they first arrived. Korra had a knife. The whole time she had a knife. She'd been planning this, even when she said it. Even when we kissed. Asami was pulled down the hall, out the door, down the walkway to Katara's home. Spots of blood dotted the path from where Tonraq had carried Korra before them, plainly visible beneath the light of the full moon. Senna marched through the snow and ice like it wasn't even there. Asami hardly noticed it either. All she could think about was the knife. By the time they made it to Katara's, Korra had already been taken back. Tonraq stood in the front room, red stains marking his blue nightwear, and beside him, Naga was lying on the floor with her head pressed against the door to the healing room. Senna took Asami to the bathroom, where they both spent a good 10 minutes trying to clean as much of Korra's blood off their hands as possible. Even when they were done, Asami still felt like she was covered in it. For what felt like hours, they waited in silence, in the same place Asami had waited for Korra during however many dozens of healing sessions she'd had since returning to the South Pole. Asami sat on the couch, with Senna seated beside her. Tonrock paced anxiously, periodically looking up at the door to the healing room as if he expected it to open any second. Nobody spoke, but with each passing minute, the silence grew heavier and heavier, until Asami inevitably cracked beneath its weight. "I kissed her earlier tonight," she heard herself say. "She told me she loved me, so I kissed her." "Asami." Senna, her eyes still rimmed red, put a hand on Asami's shoulder and smiled. "That's wonderful. I'm so happy for you both." "She told me she loved me," Asami said again, remembering the tears that had filled Korra's eyes when she'd said the words. "She told me she loved me, and then she tried to kill herself." At that, Senna was silent, as was Tonrock. That was as good a reason as any for Asami to keep prattling. "Korra called out for me a while after I put her to bed. She asked me to stay with her, and I did. She made room on the bed. We cuddled together. I slept beside her for a few hours, and..." Sickness clawed its way through her gut as she realized the true scale of her failure. "She had a knife. The whole time she had a knife. I saw it on the floor with the blankets when we were leaving." Senna touched her arm. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," she said softly. "It's not your fault, Asami. You couldn't have known." "But I should have!" It was unacceptably rude to talk over her hosts, Asami knew, but any sense of propriety had been left behind in the red-spotted snows. "I should have noticed. What good is all the education my murderous father paid in blood money for me to have if I couldn't even figure out—" "Shh, hey." Senna pulled her into a hug. "Please don't blame yourself. You've been so wonderful to her, to all of us. I can't imagine how much harder these past few months would have been without you here." "It's not enough!" Asami sobbed against Senna's shoulder. "It's not enough if I can't stop her from wanting to..." The word perished on her lips, and she shook her head. "I can hold her, talk with her, sit with her, try to keep her safe from all the bad feelings I know she gets when she's alone. But how can I keep her safe from herself?" "I don't know," Senna said, sighing. "I don't know, Asami. I wish I did." "I don't understand." Asami kept crying, even though she wasn't supposed to cry. "I thought she was doing better. She told me she loved me." Senna smiled faintly. "She does love you. I know she does. I could tell even before you told me she said so, and I'm so happy that she has you. I really am. I love her." Asami buried herself in Senna's embrace. "I love her so much. I can't lose her too." "You won't." Senna's voice was suddenly steel. "Katara is the best healer in the world. I know Korra will come out of that room just fine." "But she's not fine," Asami would have said, had her tears not stolen her voice. "If she was, she wouldn't have done this." "It's my fault." Tonrock finally spoke up, his pacing slowing but not stopping. "I wanted to talk to her before she was ready." "I was the one who suggested we..." Senna cut him off. "It is not your fault either." "Really?" Tonrock wouldn't even look at them, instead crossing his arms and staring at the floor. "I insisted on trying to talk to her, and this happened right after." "That doesn't make it your fault," Senna said firmly, though her voice never raised. "If it's anyone's fault, it's the people who hurt her, not the ones trying to help her." "What are you talking about?" Asami sat up straight, her gaze darting between both of Korra's parents. "What did you say to her?" Concern flashed on Senna's face. "Asami, I don't know if..." "I'm not stupid!" Anger erupted through the cracks, alive and uncontrollable, filling Asami with a terrible heat that made her pound a fist on the table beside her. Distantly, she thought, is this how my father felt whenever he raised his voice at me? Something harsh and rigid and fearful tried to form in the wake of that notion, but it fell back into the depths when she kept shouting. "Korra told me she loved me, then tried to kill herself, and I know you both know why." A waver rattled her voice, but she pushed through it with more volume. "I know there's something you're not telling me. How can you not trust me, after everything I've done for her?" Senna and Tonrock exchanged a look, then turned to her. "It's not that we don't trust you," Tonrock said. We thought it would be best to let Korra tell you, when she felt ready." He sighed heavily. "It didn't feel like our story to share." The worst kind of fear squirmed in Asami's gut. "What is it? What happened?" Senna took both of Asami's hands in her own. "Asami, of course we trust you," she said. You've been so good to all of us. Having you here has been the one good thing to come out of this whole mess. I promise we never meant to make you feel excluded. Just..." Tears glistened in her deep blue eyes once more. "Like Tonrock said, we wanted you to hear it from Korra. I guess that ship has sailed, though. It's not okay to keep hiding this from you." Asami's head was running through scenarios, all of them bad. "Hide what?" she asked. Tonrock's expression was suddenly distant. "The first night Korra was in the hospital, her doctor pulled me aside." He buried his face in his hand with a groan. "I still don't want to believe it. Something about this was very wrong." Frozen fingers touched Asami's spine as she recalled Korra's breakdown in the hospital, right after she'd spoken to her doctor for the first time. Back then, Asami had assumed that Korra was reacting to grim news about how difficult her physical recovery was going to be, but Senna held Asami's hands a little tighter. "Asami, honey, when the doctors examined Korra, they..." She paused to take a breath, but her eyes never left Asami's and her hands never let go. "They found signs that she'd been raped." "What?" No, that can't be right." Asami's blood turned to ice. Her head slowly turned towards the door to the healing room, where Korra was currently fighting for her life. Senna must be wrong, she decided. No one is allowed to do that. Not to Korra. Not to my Korra. She suddenly felt sick, like someone had scraped her insides raw. Who would even... "Zahir?" Asami's voice was barely a whisper. Somehow Tonrock caught her meaning. "I thought so at first," he said, glaring angrily at the floor. "But Korra said it wasn't him." "Then who? Who do I need to find? Who do I need to kill?" "We don't know," Senna said quietly. "To be honest, I don't think it matters very much at this point." This was wrong. This was all wrong. This was the kind of thing that could only ever happen to someone else, to some stranger Asami didn't know. Of course it should never happen at all, but it definitely shouldn't be happening to Korra. It couldn't be real. The doctors had to be wrong. It couldn't be real. It wasn't real. Asami inhaled sharply, remembering how Korra had woken from a nightmare weeks ago. "It's not real," she'd murmured over and over, insistently, desperately. "It's not real. It's not real." Just like that, Asami knew that it was. Her heart shattered into pieces, and the silent tears that followed could never hope to drown her grief.